Hey everybody, I'm back. Sorry for taking so long to get to this, but we are in Genesis 6 and going over the flood. So let's get right to it, shall we? So in Genesis 6, we are looking at the narrative of flood, but there's some other things that come up in the text of Scripture uh, that we want to deal with at the beginning. So let's start off Genesis 6. And when man began to multiply on the face of the land, and the daughters were born to them, uh, two, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any of them they chose. So, sons of God in this context could mean one of two things. It could be men or it could be angels. So, in obviously in the book of Job, where it refers to this as sons of men, it is sons of God. It is angels, clearly in that text. In Deuteronomy 32, this is men. What does it mean in this? We don't know for sure. Some have said that it was as angels. Some have said it was just regular old men. We really do not know. It's not clear on this. Doesn't affect the scripture and the redemptive narrative of getting to the Messiah, but it is just interesting, and God gives us something to talk about, which He does quite a bit in this part of Genesis. Sorry, moving on. And then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide with man forever, for he is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years old." So God notes that here He's still among men, not as much as like with Adam and Eve, nor with Cain and Abel, but He's still amongst them. But this is coming to an end, obviously because of the corruption that we're going to see coming along, and that eventually the max age of a man will be 120 years, and we'll see that come to fruition. Now we're going to see other people now who are going to extend that. Still, Noah is much older than that, but in the end, we're going to get to 120 years. Genesis 4. So now the Neophils were on the earth, and in those days, and also afterwards, and when the sons of God, here again, sons of God, is that angels or men? We don't know for sure, came into the daughters of man, and they were born children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old and men of renown. So some take this as because they became mighty men, that this must have been angels. I think that's a stretch. I don't think angels are sexual beings, even fallen angels. I just don't think they're sexual beings. Could have devils or demons possessed men, and then I mean, there's a lot of ways of going with this. I'm still going to go with this just men, um, and it's not angels. But you can argue either way. So have at it if you want to argue it. Now, the other part about this is, of course, the neophens. What does that mean? And in like the KJV, this word is already translated as Bible as giants in that Bible. Here we have in the ESV, it actually uses the Hebrew term. This term has several meanings. Um, to me, in this context, it means tyrants. So I think what this is basically saying is that there were tyrants on the earth in those days and afterwards, and when the sons of God came to daughters. So these tyrants, these mighty men who overwhelmed other men, basically, the Hitlers, the Napoleons. There were people like that during those days, and these are also people who would become legends in our mythology. Is that for sure? No, I don't know that for sure, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Take it either way you want. If you want to say that they were actual giants, men of stature of over, 7 feet tall or 8 feet tall, it's very possible that that's what God's talking about here. I tilt towards the actual tyrants, uh, bad guys, or warriors, things like that. So interesting. like I said, a lot to you can discuss and go either way. But I don't think there's anything to definitive, but also I don't think it's anything that upsets the narrative of where we're going. It's just interesting to get it. Other people have referred to this, and let me go on get this part. Other people refer to this as dinosaurs. I don't think that's dinosaur. I don't think this is dinosaurs. And here's why I don't think it's dinosaurs. I don't think it's dinosaurs in this text because where this narrative is taking place, which is in what is known today as the Middle East, Asia Minor, that area, we've never found any dinosaur bones. I'm not saying that dinosaurs didn't exist during this time. I think they did. I just don't think they existed where these people were, and hence why they never wrote about them. The narrative of the Bible is writing about the area of in which they see things happening. So that doesn't discount the fact that uh, dinosaurs were not on the planet, just in a place where they weren't here. Again, you take that however you want it. To me, this is not talking about dinosaurs. In the comments, say what you want, throw it out there. We can have a great discussion about it. I'm sure some of the atheist guys will go, "Oh, it's just talking about the inconsistency of the Bible. We can't understand it." Yeah, we'll get into that later. Anyway, let's keep going. So 6:5, so the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continual. So let's look at a couple of key terms in there. So great, large amounts, and not only in an amount, but substances. The type of evil that was taking place, and it was going on all over the place. And that every intention of man's heart was only evil continuous. So all he cared about was doing what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it. So we think our culture today is extremely wicked. I think this culture is far worse. It's just, and I don't know that we can even imagine the level of depravity that's happening during this time, but it's seriously bad. So we're obviously looking at a group of people who have become extremely corrupt. And God is truly noticing the sin on the earth. So 6:6, and the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So in this context, regret here is a sign of disappointment. There is here getting back to the atheist image of perfectionism, it is this, if God's perfect, then God made everything should have been perfect as he is, which it has its own problem. But let's deal with this. God knows, God knew this was going to happen. Knowing doesn't make it less disappointing. It doesn't. Uh, there are certain things that I know, having lived 59 years upon this planet, there are certain things you just know, and you're going to be, while you know they're going to happen, they still disappoint you when they do. And I see this as God. God knew this was going to happen, but that didn't change the fact that he's still disappointed. And that's what we're seeing. This is a sign of disappointment. This is not a sign of not knowing, or wow, I didn't see this coming, or wow, why did this happen? This is just, bruh. It's that meme, the lady with her head back, bruh. You just come on. So Genesis 6. So the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, and the animals and the creepy things and the birds in the heaven, for I am sorry that I've made them. So why everything on the land? Why? Well, because this is the totality of the corruption. Man has become so bad that he's even corrupting the animals. He's using the animals for corrupt things. He's this is how far spread the corruption is that nothing that can be touched by man has not been corrupted. And so God is like, it's all got to go. It's all got to go because he's corrupted it all. And so this is God saying, now is this God saying he made a mistake? No, this is not God saying, this is God recognizing the corruption. Okay, now some will say yes, this is but you will see as we go on, there's of course no amount of hermeneutics will satisfy those who want to make God less than he is, and so for them, God is saying that he made a mistake. That's not God saying he made a mistake. This is God acknowledging the depravity of these people, and here's you. And so the next verse is going to show you why he didn't make a mistake. Because if God truly honestly said, I've made a mistake. One, I think he would have said that. Two, he wouldn't have saved anybody, not a soul. But he does. So, but in verse 8 we see Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is why we know that it wasn't a mistake, because God does not kill all of mankind. He spares Noah and his family. That demonstrates that God did not make a mistake, nor did he acknowledge he made a mistake, because had he, Noah and his family would have been wiped out just as well, would have wiped everyone out. In this context, having a favor with the Lord means that the Lord had grace on Noah and his family. Grace, of course, is love undeserved. So we see that it's not. So when God says, I'm going to wipe them all out, but it's not because I made a mistake. It's because of their depravity and the sinfulness. But there's one guy, I found him and his family still have favor with me. Again, some of my atheist friends are going to, have a cow with that. And go ahead, have your cow. Knock yourself move. But we're going to go off the text of scripture. That's what we're going to go with. So like I said, had God said I made a mistake, they would have all gone. He would have just wiped them all out and started over again, because he could have. It's very simple. He could have done that because he created Adam from the dust. Why not just redo it all over again? And of course, the atheist friends of mine, the perfectionists, are going, well, if he done it perfectly, that's what he should have done. It wasn't perfected. Again, I think we're going to probably do a video on the problems of that thing, their doctrine of divine perfection, because it has a lot of holes. They just don't want to admit it. Anyway, that's a different video. Moving on. 9. So these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Obviously, compared to everyone else on the planet, and this is not saying Noah is perfect by no stretch of the imagination, but as compared to everyone else, he's a pretty good guy. And Noah walked with God. So in other words, Noah actively worked to try to obey what God had told him to do. So compared to the culture, Noah was a righteous guy, blameless, not perfect, and he was not sinless. This definitely is not a sinless person. And Noah was doing, obviously, the will of God. So now Noah had 3 sons. The sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, so we're going to find out later on that Ham is going to be cursed. And how do we know that Ham's going to be cursed? Because Ham is the only thing that can go bad. It's funny. I thought my 6th graders thought it was funny. They got it. Anyway, so the ark was going to be a family project. This is why God mentions this. There's this, thought that, how in the world did Noah build this all by? He didn't. He didn't build this by himself. He had sons, and these sons helped. And they probably contracted some other people who not necessarily didn't agree with it. But this is a family project. And Noah was the leader, the father, the head of the household. And the sons would be a part of the plan. And this is also a picture The family is a picture of the church. We are supposed to be a family. We're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be helping each other. It's a God ordained and established group that has been called by God to do this work on the earth. So the family here is a picture of the church for us because we can do great and mighty things when we work together, just as Noah and his family did. Verse 11. So now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupt their ways on the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So this is God telling his reason, telling Noah the reason for the plan, being consistent, and God has not left us ignorant. He says why. So one, God announces the plan, and this is no different. We're going to see this throughout the scriptures that God comes to man. This is the plan. This is why I'm doing the plan. So here first, why I'm doing it, because the earth is corrupt and filled with violence. And you also see in verse 12 that it's corrupted because man has corrupted all flesh on the earth. So God explains why it all has to go. It's because is using the creation, animals, plants, all the rest of it. He's using it as part of his corruption. So it all has to go. So God explains why and how the plan will work. It's all corrupt, it all goes. And this is why I'm doing it. Doesn't leave us ignorant, clearly. So the plan, God says, make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make room in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. So pitch is a tar-like substance. This is how you're to make it, and it gives the dimensions of the ark: 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in the side and make it lower second and third deck. So this is multi-leveled, right, with a door on the side. Very detailed, very detailed. So God truly knows what he's getting into. And it's really funny. So if you want to compare that to like the Mormon, in the Book of Mormon, the description of how they build their boats, how to go over, it's very funny. You should do a comparison. Very entertaining. The God who's very detailed here in Genesis, all of a sudden in the Book of Mormon becomes very stupid. Makes no sense whatsoever. That cannot be the same God. Anyway, not to chase that rabbit. Genesis 6:17. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy this, and all flesh which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come in the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives and you. So God gives the negative first, right? And the positive promises. So this is the same as salvation, right? Right? It's the same thing. Here's the problem, right? The negative, right? Which is the cross, okay? And then salvation comes after that. So we have the consequence of sin, right? The consequence of sin is the cross. Salvation comes because of that. So it's a wonderful picture that we have here in the same thing. God says, this is the sin, right? Here's the consequence of the sin. It's all going to be destroyed, but then I'm going to save this remnant, Noah and his family. So it's a wonderful picture for us to see in this text. So the command, 6:19, and every living thing of all flesh you shall bring two of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. They shall be made male and female. Wow. I want you to make sure that you read that. They shall be male and female. You notice that there are not 10,000 other genders nor sexes listed here. Sex and gender is not a social construct, it's biblical. Because in the Bible it says right there, male and female. What a radical concept. Who knew? Of the birds according to their kind, we're in verse 20 now, and of the animals according to their kind, and every creeping thing on the ground, and according to its kind, and every source, all shall come and keep them alive. You shall also take of your you every sort of food. So it's not like God's like, okay, you got to take all these animals and you got to feed them. Wow. So here again, my atheist brother friends, well, you go put him in the ark. God should just fed him himself. No, God said, look, this is your responsibility, Noah. This is your responsibility. So make sure that when you bring all the animals, you got enough food for them as well. We have responsibility. It's, we're we we we're responsible for things that God has given us things and said, God says, here it is, you're responsible for it. We have children, we're responsible for it. Our jobs, we're responsible because these are things given to us by God and we're supposed to take care of them. We're not just supposed to sit there and go, oh God, you gave it to me, but you're supposed to take care of it. God says, make sure you bring enough food. So take of you every sort of food that is eaten and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them, the animals. And Noah did this, all that God had commanded. So Noah did exactly what God said. He followed the plan. It's remarkable when we follow the plan of God how everything works out the way it's supposed to. And when we don't follow the plan of God, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, things don't work out. So we get in the Genesis account, we've had two stories prior to this where the mankind did not follow God's rules and bad things happened. Now we have a man, Noah, who's doing what God told him and he's following commands and see how things are working out well for him. We're not saying that everything worked out perfectly for Noah. Nowhere in the account does it say that because later on Noah's going to have some issues. That's because he's not. But it's still, when you're following God's plan, it's going to work out much better for you. So that finishes up here, chapter 6. We're going to continue this narrative into chapter 7. But I hope you've enjoyed this so far. Hope you've learned something. I will hopefully get chapter 7 up a little sooner than I got chapter 6 up. We're going to work our way through Genesis. Hopefully, maybe we'll get done with this year. Not making any promises. All right, but God bless y'all. Y'all have a great day.